Kevin, welcome to Talk Satellite.
Thanks very much, Kevin. Great to be back again.
Transformation throughout the satellite industry and lots of positive changes in the last 18 months for ETL. Can you bring us up to speed?
Absolutely. We've been looking at this very holistically from a market perspective, and obviously the nature of consolidation in the market. There's been a lot of acquisition activity and mergers. We're in the centre of that. We've been doing our own acquisition activities. We've brought in high power amplifiers into the portfolio. That's really sort of driven us to think about how do we look at the entire end-to-end service we're providing to our customers. That, in turn, in the way that some of our customers are integrating systems, is sort of lending itself to us providing a true end-to-end capability now that we can offer everything from the antenna right the way through to the modem. When we then look at how that integrates also on the RF analog side and the digital, we're really looking at how we also partner with key providers where we don't have necessarily some of the capabilities in those areas. So it's really leveraging the entire marketplace to be able to provide the customer solutions that they need.
Partnership's so important in that market.
Absolutely. And I think we're now seeing that the market's moving at a pace that maybe it hasn't done previously. Putting partnerships in place and being able to leverage the technology that others are developing is a really key part of our strategy in terms of supporting end users, making sure that we've got the agility and flexibility in our systems to be able to provide the capabilities that our customers are seeking. I think looking at how the interrelationship now between the various orbits, the multi-band requirements, again, we operate in an agnostic environment, so we can satisfy most of those aspects, but now looking at how we integrate and operate at that integration level is really the next key step for us. And that's where a number of our sort of strategic partnerships are playing out at the moment for ETL.
Big focus on secure, sovereign SATCOMs, much activity on the space side. But what does this mean for suppliers like ETL working on the ground segment?
I think what that means to different customers is different. When you say sovereign, there are a number of areas where we are engaging directly with end user governments. We're seeing that much more in terms of looking at their own capabilities, having control of their own ground stations, their own ground segment. We are currently active in over 120 countries, so we've got a good footprint in terms of the engagement with local providers, with local governments, and on that basis we're seeing a bit more independent sort of thinking in terms of how that ground infrastructure needs to support their own domestic sovereign capabilities.
There's so much happening in the Americas market. A huge pivot for many companies to the government sector. What's your take on how new technologies are playing out?
Well, historically, we've very much been focused on the RF analog environment. More so in recent years, we've been developing a whole suite of capabilities in the digital domain with Diffie consortium and digital protocols around that. Sort of seeing that now the market is definitely shifting to the environment I discussed earlier in terms of multi-orbit, multi-band. In an environment where you've got complex systems coming together, that has to be done in the digital domain. It's becoming too complicated and too complex to be able to manage that in the RF domain. A big focus for us and a big drive from our customers is how to provide that hybrid environment where can still utilize existing RF infrastructure, but actually supplement that with digital capabilities, ability to manage that in a software domain. And as a result of that environment, we're spending a lot more time in terms of looking at how we integrate software stacks, how we manage those protocols, who we partner with in terms of provision of that capability. But there's definitely an appetite in the market to be moving more into that space. And this is applicable both in the edge environment and at the large scale ground station environment that historically has been an RF only domain.
And I do believe your attention's now also focused on the 5G, NTN, direct to device, that scenario?
Yes. So again, once we sort of move into that digital domain, in terms of the processing and in terms of the integration for 5G NTN, looking at 3GPP standards and how that will be applicable into the crossover into the traditional SATCOM domain, is very much sort of where we're focusing a lot of our time and attention. And again, we're looking at strategic partnerships around how we integrate that into the existing infrastructure and what new infrastructure we're going to need to have in place in terms of hardware and software integration levels. We're also looking to actively demonstrate this as part of the SAT show in Washington. And so we look forward to hopefully being able to demonstrate this to a number of potential customers.
I think I'll come along and watch that too. Kevin, thank you very much. Nice to speak to you again.
It's always good to speak to you, Kevin. Thanks.